All right, hello everyone. Chrissy and I today are going to talk about habit one in the course, and it is all about eating an earlier and lighter dinner. So kick us off, Chrissy. What's your understanding of why, how eating an earlier, lighter dinner helps us?
So eating an earlier, later dinner, I think the biggest connection to make is how food affects how we feel and how we sleep. And so I was taught that you need at least 2 hours between eating and going to sleep because that time is needed for digestion. Full digestion actually takes 4 hours. And so again, when I was looking at doing some of my early morning practices, sometimes I needed to have that completely empty stomach when I woke up in the morning. So I would do 4 hours between my dinner and my bedtime. Otherwise, 2 hours is kind of what I really try and go by for sure. And what I find is that I am able to digest my food better because it's giving myself that time. When you go to sleep, your system kind of shuts down and the energy gets moved to other things, repairing and nourishing yourself. And so you want to make sure that digestive process is happening before you actually go to sleep. And so I find that I sleep better, my food's digested, and then I wake up feeling a lot lighter in the morning.
I've heard the 2 hour time and the 4 hour time too. And I feel like that might be dosha specific? Like, do you feel like a kapha and vata might respond differently? Like a vata might need a little, I mean, maybe that's another question. Like there's some people who feel like that bedtime snack actually helps them stay asleep.
Yes. And having something like some, warm milk with turmeric or nutmeg or something in it can actually be very grounding and calming before bed.
So would you say as long as it's not a solid food?
I have played around with that a bit when I've needed it. So I kind of listen to how my body's feeling. And I do notice that if I can try and do that 2 to 4 hours, I do feel a lot better. But if my blood sugar feels off, then I will have either, nothing solid, or I will have peanut butter or something like that. Something just really grounding that will kind of keep my blood sugar feeling a little bit stable as I do go to sleep, right?
So you're that girl who's like got a spoonful of peanut butter right before you go to bed?
Totally. Yeah, but I don't do that very often. I just find that I have to really listen to how I'm feeling. And if I can cue into those signals, then oftentimes if I have a cup of herbal tea before I go to bed, then that seems to be enough to just ground me and, put me into a good place for sleep.
I found that one too. Actually, this is the first time I think my husband's trying this one as well. And actually, his rule is different. He just calls it, I don't snack after dinner. That's all he kind of does. Because he doesn't go and get like a snack or a bowl of cereal or something that he's sort of doing. And he's really finding that it's helping. For him, more than sleep even, it's the ability to get out of bed in the morning.
Yes, totally. And actually, so with my partner, my boyfriend, we just had a couple of family events and he did eat lots and late. And yes, noticing how sluggish he felt in the morning and how he wasn't able to digest it, right?
Yeah.
So
I think what also happened over the Christmas season, it felt like, is that it's the sort of time of year that we let go of all of our habits. And I know the people who have gone through the course before had a taste of what it was like. So it'll be interesting to hear how they all come back. And I mean, for me, I noticed those Christmas days where we had social events and social things that were in the evening and I was nibbling like past 8 o'clock. Yeah, there was some crazy dreaming happening those nights. And it almost is like, that's what it is. It's crazy dreams and a really, really disrupted sleep for me.
Yes. And that's actually what I was saying too, those nights when we were up later and stuff like that, my dreams were just really vivid.
Yeah.
And
nonsense.
Total nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. So how do you define that then? Like, do you aim for earlier as your biggest rule, or what about the other side of the coin where it says a lighter dinner, that your main meal really is lunch and then dinner is a lighter meal? Do you practice that as a piece of the habits?
I try to, yes. I try to have a heavier meal at lunch. It's hard because I'm out most of the day and I like to eat warm food. So I literally carry about 4 or 5 thermoses around with me. But I do try and have that heavier meal at lunch and then have a lighter dinner. But the last little while I have been trying to experiment and go back to eating before 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock being my cutoff point for dinner. And to the last 4 days, I've noticed a huge difference in not only the quality of my sleep, but how I feel when I wake up in the morning and the energy that I have. So I really, as much as possible, like to stick to that, but it's hard with schedules and stuff like that and social engagements. But eating lighter or eating earlier is definitely, I find, more helpful because it gives you time to digest it.
Right. So the lighter for you, or the earlier, the time of the day seems to be more important than the quantity of the food for you.
Yes.
Right. Question about this. Oh, it's just gone from my head.
What about you? How do you find?
I think the biggest thing for me is, regardless of what time I finish dinner and then it's over. I try not to beat myself up too much about what it is, because we still have a family. We don't have a family meal in our house. The biggest meal is still dinner in our house.
Yeah.
And because of the age and stage of my kids and their activities after school, I have some kids that kind of eat at 4 o'clock because they go out the door and then come home again around 8 and eat dinner properly. Mm-hmm. And then other kids that are, I don't know, depending on when their activities are. But it doesn't feel like we have a sit-down family dinner. It feels like everyone comes home and kind of eats when they can. So lots of times that gives me the opportunity to eat as early as I like, because dinner's usually ready by 4. Mm-hmm. And then just try not to eat anymore after that.
Yes.
But it has started to be something that's, I don't know, like I find I'm not craving anything to eat at night because I know what it's costing me.
Yeah.
And that awareness alone has been really helpful for me, because I think before I would have just eaten because I'll have something to eat. It's okay. But I didn't have an awareness of how that was linked to how I felt the next day, where that awareness now makes it so I pause before I'll eat anything at night, because it just isn't worth it. The next day feels so great if I've set it up that way. Mm-hmm. So how do you, it's almost like this feeling good this morning has to do with yesterday's lunch. Mm-hmm. Does that feel like that to you? Like whatever lunch I ate today sets me up for how I feel tomorrow. Because if I actually got a really good lunch in, and then I managed to eat my dinner lighter earlier, whatever it is, and I'm not starving when I go to bed, then I set up for my day properly. But if I miss that whole lunch, like if I miss my good lunch, which is a hard one for me.
Yeah. It takes planning. And like I said, I'm out during most of the day. And so, and I like to eat warm cooked food. And so I really do pack like 3 thermoses full of, rice and dal, cooked vegetables. And I do bring that with me. And I find that if I can plan really well for my day, then I set myself up for success. Mm-hmm. And so when that planning isn't so good in the morning, then I see the effects of that. And I also see how, I might snack a little bit more, or I might look to other food that might not be as nourishing and it's good for me. So really, if I can start, once I get up and I feel good getting up, it does motivate me to then look at the rest of the day and set the rest of the day up for success.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And that's what I find really is that how I live today, Wednesday, dictates how Thursday will feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any kind of rules about leftovers? Because Ayurveda kind of frowns on them a little bit.
Yeah. So I used to be a real stickler about this, and my lifestyle before really allowed for it. So I would only eat the food that I would cook in the day, and I would cook my food in the morning, and then I'm okay with eating the same thing for breakfast, lunch, dinner. And so I would do that. My lifestyle shifted a little bit and my commitments. And so I found that I stretched it to 3 days. And that's kind of what my teacher said, is that after 3 days, the prana, the life force, is out of the food. Mm-hmm. And so not to stretch it past that. Now I'm back to 2 days right now, which feels really good. So I usually cook in the morning. Yeah. And then I have it for lunch and dinner that day. And I have it in like a crock pot or the Instapot, so I don't have to reheat it that first day. And then I'm only reheating it the next morning to bring it with me. So right. That's kind of how it's working right now. And it seems to be working really well.
Yeah, I find that helps our family too. If whatever dinner I make tonight is good for leftovers for people's lunches tomorrow, then that's helpful for all of us.
Totally.
So you've found that you can stretch it a couple of days and still have a good feedback in your system from it.
Yes. I still don't think it's ideal, and I'd love to just be able to do, the one day, but until my schedule allows for that, I think this is a good kind of balance, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you know more of the theory about why this works? Like in terms of sort of the dosha clock and when pitta is strongest and things like that?
I don't actually know.
You've done this purely from just experimenting with your own body and noticing that the benefits happen.
Not just body, but mind, because what we eat affects our emotions, right? And so when I was looking at how calm and settled I'd feel in the morning for my meditation practice, if I felt calm and settled, and I looked back to what I'd done the 24 hours prior, I could often link it to what I'd eaten and when. And when I was feeling unsettled, usually that was heavier meals or more sugar or things like that. And that really affects the mind.
Yeah.
And then there's certain foods that can leave you feeling really sluggish and really dull. And then foods that are lighter to digest and easier on your system, sattvic foods, leave you feeling a lot lighter and fresher, and your mind a lot lighter and fresher, right? Yeah. And so then the emotions are more easily balanced.
Tell us that word you just used, sattvic. Explain that a little bit more. So
sattvic. So it is a quality that we have, and there's two other ones, rajasic and tamasic. So sattva or sattvic refers to that lightness. It's a freshness to food. It's a freshness to the qualities. When it comes to food, it's easy to digest. It's pleasant. When we look at sattvic colors, let's say, it's light colors, so yellow and white and, light greens and stuff like that, blues, things that are uplifting. Yeah. Things that are light and lift you up, really. And food that is sattvic lifts you up.
Yeah. So would that be different for everyone, what a sattvic food is? Or is there something around food that a sattvic food is kind of a sattvic food? Doesn't matter what your dosha is. It doesn't matter what your constitution says.
From what I've learned, a sattvic is something that is consistent for everybody. So there's foods that are considered sattvic, there's foods that are considered rajasic, and there's foods that are considered tamasic.
So tell me some sattvic foods.
Some sattvic foods?
Yeah.
So khichdi is a super sattvic food. It's when you cook the rice and dal together. Yeah. You can also add some vegetables that are sattvic, or zucchini, loki squash. I love khichdi.
Can you teach me how to make it then? Because I tried it twice, 3 times, maybe more, and it sucks.
Really? Oh. Yeah. I eat it like maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, and I hear it like it's supposed to be amazing for us, and I can't get it right.
Yeah, and so my teacher, I have the recipe from him. Yeah. And I've also experimented with other ones, and I used to literally eat khichdi every single day.
Well, they say that you can, like if you're going to do a cleanse, you can. Like cleanse with Khichdi.
Exactly. And I do lots of, 2 or 3 day cleanses with Khichdi, but I did notice a huge difference in just how light my body felt, because it's so easy to digest, and yet it has all the proper nutrients in it. And so you're actually nourishing yourself, but in a very light way. Mm-hmm. So, but, so sattvic foods, that would be a sattvic food, Khichdi. Something that's more rajasic, kidney beans. I love kidney beans, but they are more rajasic. They kind of stimulate.
Would all beans fall in that category?
No, because mung beans, specifically split, are very sattvic. They're very easy to digest. Yeah, they're light, nourishing for the system. Whereas rajasic or kidney beans would be more rajasic. And then you have tamasic foods that are very heavy. They leave you feeling really dull and really sluggish. And like your system is just like, and so they normally do say that leftovers are more tamasic.
They do say that.
Yeah. Anything that's overcooked
has lost its life force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can kind of look at this and see.
Any foods with preservatives in it, like if you can buy it off a grocery store shelf and it won't ever go bad, it's not going to sit well in your system.
No.
Awesome. So if somebody is just playing with this habit, just starting out, it hasn't occurred to them to try out this, what would sort of your beginner's tips be?
My beginner tip would probably be to just start to eat your dinner earlier. Like even go 15 minutes, even go half an hour. And the thing is though, with all these habits, we need to make sure they work for us, right? Yeah. Okay. So we need to be able to fit them into our schedule in a way that works. And so if eating your dinner earlier just doesn't work for you, then you would look at trying to have a lighter dinner, right? So it's always being practical. What's going to work for you? What can you be consistent with? What can you work in without creating a lot of upheaval in your life, right? Yeah. So that would be my first thing, is that if you have it available to you, try and eat a little bit light earlier in the day. Yeah. And start with that. See how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll brainstorm that with everyone and see what everyone can come up with for their own lives. But that was great. Thank you. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll chat soon.
Sounds good.